Hi, and welcome to Words and Music. I'm glad you can join us. My name is Loretta Alabons. I gotta tell you that there are not many female rockers who have accomplished as much as our next guest, Cherie Currie, the former lead singer of the groundbreaking band, the Runaways. In our conversation today, Cherie talks about her new album, Blvds of Splendor, her former bandmates Joe and Jet, leader Ford, and will there be a Runaway reunion? So let's take a listen. I have to tell you a story, and I was listening to Spotify, and I was listening to the Runaways, and I said to myself, wow, what an amazing song, Cherry Bomb, and all these other songs. And literally, I said to myself in my head, you know, the voices you talk to yourself, I wish I can speak to this dynamic band. I actually said this to myself.
Wow.
So, 2 days later, I connect to Ken because I worked with Ken before. Yeah.
I love Ken so much. He is just my heart. I love him.
And we were chatting about, this came about because he was handling Bob the Drag Queen. And he was just telling me, oh, you know, Loretta, who else do you get on your show? What's your show about? I said, it's basically, you know, a chat show where we speak to, you know, artists we admire and love. And he said, have you heard of Cherie Currie? I said, yeah. How about she's got a new album? And that's how it came to be. It was just so fateful.
Well, that is awesome. And I did not know that you were in Singapore.
Yes.
My younger brother, Don, when my parents got divorced and my mother remarried back when I was just joining the Runaways, she moved to Indonesia and they lived in Jakarta and spent a lot of time in Singapore, my brother and my mom and my stepdad. And boy, the stories he has in Singapore.
Can you remember?
Yes, he got bit by a monkey. That was funny. He got attacked at a monkey sanctuary, and this monkey just jumped on his arm, and all these people were gathered around, and John's thinking, this is so great. The monkey just went and just bit him, blood everywhere, and all the tourists just got on the bus and left. Yeah, Don had a lot of great stories back from those days.
Wow. And how long was your mother living in Jakarta?
From 75 to 78.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in the movie The Runaways where, you know, your mom was telling both you and your sister about, you know, packing up and going to Jakarta.
Right. Yeah.
Well, congrats on the album, by the way, Blvds of Splendor.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you. It's the album I always wanted to make, so I'm so happy it's out.
And I wanted to find out and ask you, how did Matt Sorum come into the picture?
That is a fluke. I was traveling with Ken Phillips, you know, my PR guy extraordinaire and mutual friend of yours. And Matt had reached out to me to do some background singing on his now wife's album, Ace, had a band. And I was gone out of town, so by the time I got back, I called him, and I'd missed that opportunity, but he had asked what I was up to, and I told him, wow, you know, I've actually just been asked to open for Joe and Jet in 3 weeks, and I don't have a band. Do you know anybody? He said, well, I'll be your drummer. And I just fell out of my chair. And he goes, and I'll put the band together for you. So he had Nick Mayberry and Grant Fitzpatrick, two of the most outstanding players ever. And I had Jake audition, my son Jake, who you've met earlier, who is just an extraordinarily talented kid. But he was 19. So this was 10 years ago. So we had the band, and Matt just, everything he touched in my life, it just turned to gold. It really did. I'm so grateful to him.
Yes, I love the whole album. I've been listening it, from top to bottom. Mr. X, Roxy Roller, Boulevard of Splendor. It's just an album we needed, a pure rock and roll album. I just felt so blessed to have the opportunity to stumble upon this album.
Thank you, Loretta. That means a lot because you know what? I have never in my, almost 40, 7 years in this business, ever had an album that I loved completely. I always had a song or two or three or four or five that I would just want to skip through, But this album, I love it more than I did 10 years ago. A lot of the songs I weren't really hip to, like even Black Magic is one of my favorites. Breakout, which I thought could have been a little hokey with the megaphone thing that Matt did. And Matt came up with so many great ideas, the na, 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 all that. And now it's like they're like my favorite songs on the record.
Why did it take so long to put the album together?
Well, no, the album came together very quickly. I did ask Kenny Laguna, who was my manager at the time, who was Joan's longtime manager, to bring in Tom Panunzio to do some of the finish sound work on it because Matt had worked so hard on this record that I just really thought that we could really use a huge sound. But, they shelved the record. I don't really know why. I really don't. I begged, I pleaded. I actually went out on tour in 2013 playing a lot of the songs on this record thinking I could push their hand, but they just didn't. They just shelved it, and I didn't expect it to come out at all. In fact, when they put it out on vinyl for Record Store Day, I was shocked. Why now? I love this record to the point where I couldn't even think about it anymore. I mean, I was selling my house. I was going to buy some land up north, build a couple cabins, and just be a carver. Do the occasional session work that I do here and there. But I was finished with this business. And then I met Brie Darling, and by doing some session work for her, and we ended up making a record together. But I don't know. I'm going to one day hopefully get an answer of why it sat on a shelf for 9 years. But right now, I don't know.
Thanks for telling me that because I was confused. And I said, how did this album took 10 years? And I'm so glad you answered that question because I was wondering, why did it take so long? And, thank you for explaining.
Yeah, well, it's one of those questions that I get asked a lot. And I mean, I did have an accident in 2016, but remember the album was finished for a good 5 years at that point, sitting on a shelf. But having it on Blackheart Records, Joan works all the time, constantly touring, Kenny constantly touring. Maybe that was the reason, but it was 10 years of my life that I lost, where I could have been out on tour with a great product. And that is a fact. So maybe one day Kenny and Joan will tell me why, but right now I'm just happy it's out.
And I'm going to do all I can to promote it here in Singapore and to our fan base at LAMC Productions. Essentially, I'm a concert promoter.
Really?
Yeah. I promote shows. Our genre is basically rock and roll. We've done everything from your Guns N' Roses to your Metallicas, Slipknots and everything. And when this lockdown happened, everything just vanished. And I said to myself, what can I do to be a contribution? And what can I do more? I think the question I asked myself, what can I do more to be a contribution to all these bands sitting at home, and how can I get the music and the bands heard on our platform? And we got quite a large following on our Facebook. And I said, yeah, I'll try this. Work from home. I put up this studio, and I started interviewing bands. And
well, I certainly love that because I am the one that I've been promoting the Runaways music because I really didn't have a record. So a lot of the shows I've done is because people do want to see the Runaways music. They want, and so I've kept that alive whenever I did shows. But I would absolutely love that. Love it, love it.
I just wanted to check about the Runaways. If you didn't write that memoir, Neon Angels, and your story, there would not have been a Runaways movie. Am I correct to say that?
Yes, you are correct to say that. Yeah. Kenny, he had read my original book, which came out through Price Stern & Sloan in 1989, but that was a young adult book. And Kenny and I were very, very, very good friends, and I had just started to write chapters that were not included in that young adult book for obvious reasons. And he just really believed that he could sell this book into a feature film. That's a long shot. But you know what? I have to tip my hat to Kenny Laguna. The guy has done a lot with Joan. I mean, honest to God. Of course, she's a great talent, but it took a great manager. And that is what Kenny is. And the guy pulled it off. Good for you, Kenny, because that's difficult to be able to have a movie. I mean, it's rare. Not only is it difficult to make it happen, but it's rare to have a movie made about you. Yeah, Kenny did a great job on that.
Were you there when they were filming the movie, when Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning?
Oh, yes. Dakota, Floria Sigismonte really did not want me on the set. Of course, Joan and Kenny were executive producers, so they were on the set, but Dakota wanted me there. And so she got what she wanted.
It's a great movie. I enjoyed it very much.
Great.
Now, the songs Cherry Bomb, Queens of Noise, and Hollywood all sound timeless. And what did it feel like for you being a 15-year-old, all of a sudden thrust into the exciting world of rock and roll?
It's a question that's hard to answer because all of us just were doing what we were told and trying to figure out who we were along the way. Because, all I know is me and Joan in particular, I'm sure Jackie as well, were very insecure. We really didn't know who we were. I mean, Joan, huge Suzi Quatro fan. I'm also a Suzi Quatro fan, of course. But Joan took on the persona of Suzi Quatro while I took on the persona of David Bowie. And it all happened so fast, Loretta. It happened so fast that, we were signed within just a couple of weeks of me joining the band. And then we got in the studio. And before we knew it, we were on tour. It just was a whirlwind, really, really quick.
And what was fame like for you?
Well, we didn't even really know we had any fame until we got back from our first tour, and we went from playing the Starwood and the Whiskey A Go-Go to the Santa Monica Civic Center. And but we knew that we had actually really made a difference when we played Japan, because it was just like Beatlemania. I mean, it was just outrageous. We did not expect to come off a plane and be, just have so many police there and just, a sea of people. And it was very exciting, very exciting. But at that time, I was pretty tired of us not having anybody to moderate. And Kim, he really loved to kind of pit us against one another. He always thought what he would call gave us rock and roll authority, or we'd be pissed off on stage or an edge or whatever, but it just destroyed us, Our friendships were really warped by that time, if there were any. Jackie had slit her wrists in Japan. If that doesn't speak volumes about the kind of stress and pressure. And we just needed a break, and we weren't going to get it. There was no way we were going to get it. And We didn't really like each other. And at that point, and that's why I walked. That's
sad.
Sure.
It's sad.
Yeah.
So if Kim had been more of a mentor instead of trying to pit each of you all against each other, I think things have been different.
True. And, I took care of Kim towards the end of his life. I forgave him, and he called me and asked if he was dying of bladder cancer, if he could move into my home. And I jumped at that. And I took care of him for a while until he had to go back into the hospital. He passed away. But, now in hindsight, I look back and he had a terrible childhood himself. Not a good childhood. And he had never had children. He was a hustler. He was brilliant. One of the best lyricists I've ever met, ever. He proved it when he was living here as well. He just was like cherry bomb, rolled right off his tongue with nothing changed, start to finish. He was brilliant. And
you were brilliant too.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. You know what? We did the best we could with what we had. And to be that age, I think we did pretty good.
Definitely. So I did read somewhere about, you trying to get the Runaways back together for a reunion. The link that was not possible was Lita Ford. But do you think that will change?
Well, it was actually Lita that had reached out to Sandy West and I this was back in 98, 99, early 99. I could be 98, right before I bought this home. And she said, let's do a Runaways reunion. Can you get Joan on board? And so me and Sandy started working on Joan and Kenny. Finally, Joan and Kenny thought that it was a good idea. So once Joan said okay, and Kenny kind of secured a record deal, and we were going to talk about touring, we had our very first conference call, and that was the end, because Kenny and Lita just has a real issue with Kenny Laguna, and she just said, I'm done, forget it, I don't need this, and hung up. And then they made me call her. And I was, me and Lita didn't really get along. I had to call her, and she just said, no, I'm not doing it. Can't stand Kenny. And so that happened. That was too bad, because it was all set up. And then Lita came back again after the Runaways movie and wanted to attempt it. But the thing is that Joan now doesn't want to do it. And I don't blame her. Who needs the aggravation? The thing is for me, I played with all the girls. I played with Joan. I played with Lita. Yeah, so the thing is that I at least have played with everyone. I played with Sandy and Jackie. Anytime I ever did a show when Sandy was alive, she always played with me. I never did a show without her. So I don't think Joan and Lita and Kenny will ever see eye to eye, and that's a shame. Mm-hmm. Because for me, I always think what the audience wants, what the fans want, is what should be the most important. And can't we all just get along?
No, because essentially it's for the fans. The fans want to see the reunion.
Of course. But you know what? That's why, for me, with Kim Fowley, why I found it so important to forgive him and go beyond that. Because now, had I not done that, Loretta, I would not be the person I am today. I have nothing but love for Kim. I miss him. And I really think forgiveness and getting past all this baloney, whatever it is that Lita is going through with Kenny, or vice versa, whatever it is, it's just not worth it, because life is so much better when you just, realize the past is the past and you move past it. I think that I've gained so much by taking care of Kim and getting to know him before he died that I have nothing but my heart is set free. I truly think I would have been a different person had I not done that, honestly.
Who knows? Maybe, his spirit is, will do some divine intervention and the Runaways will come together. Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. I think at this point, it's probably a moot point. But, I mean, I never say never. Hey, if they decide they can get along and make it work, great. I think the fans would love it. But you know what? Sometimes music isn't the most important thing to people. Sometimes people think that they are more important than the people. And I think that when that happens, that's too bad.
Was Kim a good manager?
He certainly got the job done. I mean, he knew more people. And listen, the guy was a great writer. He's written for some top-notch, like my dad would say, big cats, in the business. He stole from us, for sure, all our money. But without Kim, there wouldn't have been a Runaways. So, again, you've got to take the bad with the good.
After the Runaways, you've also had a very successful acting career.
I'm not going to say it was successful. I let drugs really stop me cold. But I was lucky enough to do a film with Jodie Foster called Foxes, a movie with Bobby Carradine called Wavelength, and I did some other parts here or there. Worked with Demi Moore on a movie and TV, but it just wasn't meant to be for me. I mean, I had a serious drug problem, and once I got clean, my career was over. I mean, I guess I'd left such bodies in my wake, I guess. And that was back at a time when they would pander to drug addicts on stage. Trust me, I mean, like Airwolf. I don't know if you ever saw that. And I forget the name of the actor right now, but he was loaded all the time. And they still went ahead and people got away with murder back then, But I really didn't know what life was like without drugs. I just didn't. I started at 15 and with cocaine and Quaaludes, and I didn't really let it progress anything. I never did heroin, or thank God. I mean, there were, because it scares me. Mm-hmm. I mean, drugs scare me. So I let it ruin my career. It was my chance, and I just was too messed up. I was too messed up to focus, and too damaged, I guess, as well. So,
but you're doing great now. Yeah. I mean, I understand why. I get it, and if we're here to learn lessons and move on from these lessons for the next time around, I definitely have my eyes wide open, and I'm not in denial of what I've done to my life. And I think when you admit and take responsibility for the things you have done, right and wrong, it's a freeing thing. It gives you such an inner peace. I recommend it to everybody. And you know what? Even the simple act of saying I'm sorry to someone is huge, really huge, of what that not only does for yourself, but really what it does to the recipient of it. Boy, does that help situations big time. A simple I'm sorry and mean it. People for some reason don't do that very often either. They don't want to admit them when they're wrong. They don't want to take responsibility. And that's too bad, because, boy, is it a good thing to do, honestly. From acting, and then you stumbled upon wood carving. How did that amazing skill set come about?
Everything that has happened that good in my life has stemmed from art. Now, when I was a counselor and a tech at Coldwater Canyon Hospital helping young kids, battle their addictions. I had to sit in a classroom with these children, and I had to sit there for 2 hours at a time. So I started to bring a sketchboard and colored pencils. That was it. And I started to draw for the first time. And they were these whimsical little scenes with, a prince and a princess and castles and, beautiful animals, and everything was so gorgeous, and love and all that romance. And a friend of mine, Rick Frio, who was my manager, took me to Price Stern & Sloan as an artist for children's books. And when they asked me how long I'd been drawing, and I said, I've been drawing a year. And they said, how is that possible? And I told them the story about the Runaways and the drug addiction and getting clean and sober. And they said, well, we've been looking for our first young adult book, and this is it. So I walked in just to see if they would use some of my art, let me draw for some children's books. And I walked out an author. Had I not been drawing at that time, that would never have happened. For the book never would have happened. The movie wouldn't have happened. But I went on from going from a sketch artist, and I was never good. I can't I do more caricature type drawings. My son, on the other hand, can do a beautiful watercolor painting of you, and it look exactly like you. I tried. I do not possess that talent. But then I went and I started painting, and I grabbed some bleached oak tabletop out of the trash down the street, and I rolled it home, and I painted a steer skull on it. And because I'd done real 3-dimensional paint on it, I just wanted to carve that out. But you can't on oak. So I went and bought a little round tabletop at Home Depot, and I sketched a scene, and I carved it out with a Dremel, and I stained and painted it. And I started selling those because, they were pretty amazing. And then one day I was going to the beach and happened to pass a couple of guys chainsaw carving at the side of the road. And I didn't stop, but I couldn't get it out of my head. And every morning I got up, that voice, Loretta, that we need to listen to every time, not just part of the time, every time, was telling me I had to go back. And I finally did. And I walked into their gallery, and I saw these beautiful mermaids and dolphins and bears and just everything you could think. It was beautiful art. It wasn't the, what you would imagine, these boxy bears, it was gorgeous. And this voice said, you can do this. Okay. And I asked the owner if he would teach me. And he looked at some of my artwork and said, absolutely. I started winning ribbons almost out the gate, it seemed. And I started competing in 2005 and placed in a couple major competitions. And, I've been doing it ever since. So
which is your favorite carving that you've done?
Oh, wow. I couldn't tell you my favorite. I think the woman that I have on my main page that is praying in a sarong, I think she's my favorite simply because I'd never done a woman, really, really done a woman before like that. And it was 8 feet tall, and I was so terrified, and it turned out so great. So I think she's truly my favorite. But I've done a lot that I loved, a lot that I've loved. It was hard to let them go at first, So now I just carve for other people. I don't carve for myself. I just carve. I don't own a single piece that I've done.
So people who want wood carvings would just go to your website and place an order, make a request?
That's right. That's the great thing, is that you can have anything you want, any way you want it. Anything you can dream up, I can do. And that's pretty hard to find someone that can do that. And I don't think there's another medium where you can really do that. Definitely not in wood that I know, but, I love to chainsaw carve. I'll be doing that as long as I can lift the saw.
Do you do overseas? Do you ship overseas orders?
I have. I don't think I've gone to Canada. That was rough. It's very expensive to ship overseas because they go by weight and size. But But Canada, I've shipped to Canada.
Anything you want to tell your fans in Asia or around the world?
It's so funny because when you say that, I think, gosh, do I still have fans
Yes.
from way back? I will say thank you for all your support all these years. You mean so much. Because without those fans, I wouldn't be doing this, and that's guaranteed. Because this business can be really hard, but the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is the fans, which make it worth it for me. I grew up with these fans. A lot of them still, even from my Runaways days, come to my shows. And they just make everything worthwhile. They mean everything, because I think a lot of people in this business forget that without the fans, they are nothing. I mean, nothing. So treat your fans, friends, I call them friends, with the utmost respect, including you, including the journalists, including all the people that take the time to talk to me. You could be doing something else, but you're supporting my record and helping me get the word out. So you're as important as I am, as the fans are. We're all doing this together. Nobody is better than anybody else. It's a love for music. It's a love of this kind of music. And my appreciation is boundless for you and my fans out there. Thank you so very much. Without you, I'm nothing.
The Runaways did tour for the Ramones.
I believe I did do a show with the Ramones. It was, again, we worked every night for a couple of years. I believe we did for a night or two, but then after I left the band, I think that they could have actually toured with the Ramones. I didn't want to even look or I didn't even listen to the Runaways music till just 22 years ago after. I mean, so we're talking a couple, 20 years where I couldn't even listen to the Runaways or look at any videos or anything because it just was so painful. But I do know that the girls worked with them, I believe, on a tour after I left.
The COVID-19 in California, how are you coping?
Very well. I'm blessed. I don't know anyone. My niece did test positive. She was sick, had like a 24-hour bug, and she did test positive, but my brother and his wife were negative. I don't know anyone that has passed or been hospitalized with this disease at all. No one, actually, besides little Grace, who recovered in 24 hours. So the lockdowns are really hard because we did everything right. We were so compliant, and then we had the riots and we had the protests. And for some reason, it feels a little to me like they're blaming us good folks that just sat at home and played by the rules. But, you know, everybody is suffering now because they just shut us down again. But we'll get through this. We'll get through it. How about you?
We are fine here in Singapore. I mean, we've got kind of strict government rules here. And when we are stay-home notice, we all have to stay home. Businesses have shut down. Only essential services have, come forward. And the thing about the mask, it's very strict here. If you don't wear the mask, you will get fined like $300. And if you're a repeat offender, you get fined, I think, $500 up to $1,000. So it's very strict.
That's what's happening here as well. And I think absolutely people should wear masks. I think when I want to walk from my house to my car, I don't need to wear a mask. Or if I'm walking my dog down the street with no one around, that I need to wear a mask. Personally, I'm allergic to if I start to sweat, and I find it very difficult to breathe. I also know that it's not good to breathe in your own carbon monoxide while you're exercising or anything like that, because I do have to wear a mask when I carve. but it's a different kind of mask. But, you know, we're going through the same thing that you're going through, Loretta, you know, strict lockdowns. And yesterday he shut everything down again because there's a spike in positive cases. There are more people in the hospital, of course. There would be if the protests and the rioters and everything else. I thought for sure that would cause it, and I don't know exactly what did, but I know that the people that stayed at home and wear the mask and go to the market didn't cause this spike. So I think we'll find out eventually, but we're getting to the point of no return. And that's what scares me is I wonder what happens when the remedy kills the patient and when the economy cannot recover and therefore people are dying because they've lost everything. I mean, I think we should have the right, if you want to wear a darn spacesuit, wear a spacesuit, but let these people go out and work, you know, stick to the guidelines. But I know we're at the point now of no return, and I think that our leaders are not doing a very good job protecting people's businesses. They're just not, and they're not doing the right thing, in my opinion. And a lot of fear too, you know, fear. You just can't let fear run you into the ground. And again, I'm sure you guys get it too, that it's just constant bad news and so much they overdo it on the media and really put the fear of God into people. And I wish they wouldn't do that. It's real, but you know, we got to get past it. Thank you so much, sweetie. And I hope I meet you one day. You've been terrific. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you. Okay.
Thank you for the support.
You're welcome.
All right. Much love.
Okay, love to you too, Cherie. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right,
bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Cherie Currie. And we hope to see Cherie in concert real soon. My takeaway from our chat is that she is really inspiring, full of wisdom, and fearless in her pursuits. If you'd like to know more about Cherie, you can visit the following links. Now, we have a contest for you. All you have to do is tell us the name of Cherie's new album. And we are giving away a $5 gift code that can be used at our gig shop. You can comment your answers at our Facebook and YouTube channels here. And for all upcoming shows and new merchandise, visit LAMCproductions.com. You can hear the audio version of the show on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcast. Until next time, my name is Loretta Alabans for Words and Music. Goodbye.